Well, I was a part of hours and hours long live coverage for Hurricane Dorian. And initially, you heard it's a Category 5 storm, and you're hearing the facts and the statistics from weather officials come in, and it all seemed kind of surreal. I remember Basil Dean coming in the studio and sitting and describing exactly how the storm is going to play out. He talked about the fact that it's going to sit over islands like Abaco and Grand Bahama, basically more than 50 hours. I heard him. I asked him questions about it. I had a nice little back and forth with him, but it didn't register what he meant, that the storm would sit for a minimum of 50 hours over these islands. And he talked about the storm surge and the waves and the sea swells and exactly how high those were going to get, and people need be careful and pay close attention. And I was a part of all of it. As I said, I interviewed him. I took phone calls from persons around the country, but specifically from residents of Abaco and Grand Bahama. And for me, it wasn't very, very real. That was, of course, sort of before the storm hit. And then even sort of, and as I'll tell you this, as the hours got closer, and Basil would come on more frequently during the live broadcast, then people started taking it seriously. I do remember several calls from Grand Bahama, several. And it got to me where I started almost, I want to say panicking, but certainly feeling like, whoa, man, you all are just now calling. Basil has been on this airwaves for hours and hours and hours. In fact, perhaps a day before, talking about the severity of the storm. Now you all are calling because you're beginning to see the rainfall that is building, and you're afraid, and you're saying you're stuck in the attic. One guy called in particular, young guy, oh, I can't swim, and his voice broke. And for me, that is when I started myself getting very like, whoa, this is real. My God, who's going to rescue that guy? But he's been warned. They've been told that the rescue authorities cannot go and put themselves at risk in these kinds of conditions. What is going to happen? For me, that was when Dorian and everything Basil told us beforehand began to sink in and became real for me. I wouldn't say I had to seek counseling. What I did in the, of course, that coverage lasted in this sort of the thick of things for as long as the storm lasted, and I had to kind of step up along with my other team members, step up even more as our team in Grand Bahama. They, of course, were underwater, broadcast stopped. And so here and now, so we had to pick up and continuing extensive coverage, live. And so that lasted certainly for a day and a half, 2 days perhaps. Immediately following, about 2 days later, I had to kick back into host of the conversation. And so it was just, the coverage was continuous, except I stopped being sort of news person covering a storm, back into talk show host. And what I did, I decided I'm not going to go back to business as normal. This was too severe. Too many people still unaccounted for. Too many people frazzled and afraid for me to do that. And so what I did, instead of me going out to seek the counseling, I brought the counseling in, not just for myself, but for the entire country, and even those who were abroad who needed it, because everyone was on pin. After all, you know the reports. This was the worst storm on record ever to hit, our part of the world, perhaps even the world over, but certainly our part of the world. And so what I did is I brought in a team of psychologists and therapists. I even brought in a lady who was a part of that initial team that appeared on my show from the United Kingdom, who does therapy in a different way, where you can doodle, you can draw, you can just something to get it out, something on your own schedule to kind of get out this trauma, this fear, this anxiety, this depression, which hadn't quite set in as yet for many persons, but just for you to be able to just express what you just experienced. And that is what I extended, not only to myself, but also to the multiple of people who were tuned in. My business is one of obviously you're trying to pull in viewers. If you are in print, you want the headline and the picture, that $1 million shot, to sell papers and to have people talking about your reporting, etc. Or in my case, your broadcast, and so that it goes viral. There are shares, people talking about it, and so it's a very thin line. However, even considering that and understanding what the business is today, it's really important for persons like myself in the business of media to still very, very carefully kind of tell a story, to not take advantage of, to not prod and poke to the point that you cause some sort of reaction that then puts that person in a tailspin. And so while you're looking for the response, while you're looking for the tears, while you're looking for God knows what else to happen on camera, you also have to be very responsible to know that mental health and the way people respond, sometimes it can be a delayed reaction. Sometimes you can trigger something that can become quickly out of control. That it's still important for all of us to be sensitive, respectful of persons. And if you hear someone say that they're having a hard time, somehow tailor your story in a way that while you're telling their story, you're respectful of what is happening with them. Just yesterday, for example, yesterday on my show, a lady who was relocated still here to Nassau from Abaco was just talking about her experience of going to the various government entities and seeking help and being told one thing and treated various ways, and her experience that she shared. And then after saying all of that, here's what she said finally: Shenique, depression is setting in. I stopped, I paused, and I stopped sharing, and I said, you know what? I said, seek help. I said, and it sounds trite, maybe just saying seek help, but I'm like, talk to someone. Talk to someone, get it out. Do not harbor that, because the experience was so traumatic. So many people are still traumatized. People here in New Providence, people who weren't even sort of, in the path of the storm, meaning on those islands, to experience it firsthand. And so imagine someone who experienced it firsthand, who is now displaced, homeless, has nothing, and then still having a hard time. And she said, in the midst of hundreds of people on a live feed, she said, Shenique, depression is setting in. For me, I did not explore it further. I didn't take advantage of it. I didn't say, hey, tell me, what are you feeling? What does this depression feel? No, I simply said, our thoughts and prayers are with you. We hope you and many others get back to some normalcy quickly, but please talk to someone. And I think that is how we have to kind of be a part of now being the healers. We cannot seek, as I said before, the $1 million video or picture where someone is having a tough moment because we know it's going to benefit our business. We have to somehow step into the position and the posture of healer and to assist with that, particularly in the wake of something like a Dorian. I think it's also our responsibility to bring mental health to the forefront as not something that should be stigmatized, as not something that should be shunned, or what's wrong with you? You were talking to a psychologist, you're seeing a therapist, you are participating in whatever program it is that's available for you. There's no shame in that. Self-care and self-help is king in your life. And persons, I was very, very happy. The same group that I brought in, who worked with the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas and extended a national care in the months following Dorian, that same group worked with rescue workers, which included police, defense force, any number of them, NEMA workers, a number of them. And I'm happy that they did that, and I was able to have them on the show talking about it and have people hear about it, because for too long, not just in the Bahamas, it's not synonymous to the Bahamas, but certainly in the Bahamas, oh, you crazy, eh? Or that person crazy? No. Self-care is wisdom. Self-care preserves you to live another day and to live victoriously for another day. So I hope that we would begin presenting mental health in a better way, so that it is not something that is frowned on. It is not something that people sort of look at and at the corner of their eye and gossip about. No, we all, in fact, it is healthy for each of us periodically to seek a professional. Periodically, we all need that detoxing. You heard about detoxing once a year? We also need that mental detoxing, all of us. And so there's no shame in that, except for us to present it in a very respectful way that people are now more open and receptive to it.